Greetings, fellow Planeswalkers.
I'm James.
And I'm Paul.
And you're listening to the newest episode of the Commander at Arms podcast. This week on the podcast, we are talking to Jake and Chris from the Command the Cause. How are you, fellas?
Doing good. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm also great.
Excellent. So we're going to get into our upkeep trigger here. I'm going to thank all of our Patreons. You guys help keep the lights on around here. We love you. Thanks for the support. Mail day. Has anyone got anything interesting in the mail, or have you gone through your collection to find anything super interesting?
So I actually finished fleshing out the last of my my Thraxamundar deck not too long ago, and hey, it's better than wheels.
No, let's not get into that.
Do you use the heavy metal Thraxamundar from that
You
sequel?
better believe I do.
Oh, hell yeah.
That is one sweet looking art, BT dubs.
I'm over here just staring at a tracking progress bar for my Chatterfang deck. It's in China.
Did you buy the whole deck?
But yeah.
The whole deck?
Oh, well, yeah, I proxied it, but it's sitting in China.
It's out in China.
I don't think I actually have anything in the mail right now. Oh, I mean, I went to an LGS, 2 days ago, and I picked up Ignoble Hierarch because it's like plummeted in price so much. I think it's like $10 now instead of like the $45 it was when Modern Horizons 2 released, and I'm really happy about that.
Just give it time.
Yeah, it'll be 45 again.
I've already got my copy, so it's totally fine. I don't mind anymore because like if it goes up in price, then I've just made money on a card that was just sitting in someone's case.
Mm-hmm. I have so many copies of that card.
James also picked up a Ornithopter of Paradise from me on Friday.
I did because we were at Paul. I was over at Paul's place on Friday to sign a few cards for our giveaway winner, which was Alan. That one got in the mail today, so it's getting shipped to Argentina. It's got those cards in it. I picked up Ornithopter of Paradise for Geared, but that's a good segue into our next little talking point here in the upkeep, and that is to go and check out the old Gnawbone deck tech on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, like the video, and comment on it for the algorithm. Tell me how I did. Tell me what you would change, what you could update, what you would take out. Give us your take on that deck.
Yeah, me and James were talking, and I came up with at least, 5 more cards in a span of seconds that could have gone on the deck, so it wouldn't surprise me if there were, at least 50 more that I missed. You could build that deck basically any way you want. We were talking about this before we actually started recording. There's just... Old Gnawbone doesn't lock you into anything in particular. Treasures, funny enough, are pretty versatile. It's weird how that works. So
yeah, because it's mana.
If you have something that is very unique, I'd actually like to see it, because I'm sure that there is a unique build out there that I missed.
I mean, I'm almost guaranteed that there is a unique build out there that we all missed. I mean, I wanted to put Eldrazi in a version of it, but Paul said no. But he had stack spaces in it, and I said no. So we kind of compromised.
Monster with stacks.
Yeah, I know, right? He was like, Winter Orb is a thing, and then we can tap it with Clock of Omens. And I was like, Paul, what are you doing?
You're my kind of guy. I love those Winter Orb blocks.
All right. Forget Winter Orb, though. Smokestack is actually so good with Old Gnawbone.
Yeah, because you're going to sack the treasures that you make. I mean, it's fun.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's nice.
Yeah, we did, and then I was like, Paul, we have to take this out. And he's like, oh, yeah. I went for a +1/+1 slight strat in there, as well as like big old creatures and like evasion from things. And I was like, cool, because, that's how it goes. But anyway, check that deck tech out on YouTube. We're going to move on now to our play of the week. Jake, did you have a play of the week?
Yeah, so mine, it wasn't so much a play of the week as a game of the week. I was in a tournament not too long ago, playing for a Commander Green deck. And I was playing Paco. I was in the final pod for second place, and I was sitting across from 2 Turgrids. Even the judges didn't want to be a part of that game. Just a mess of the stack. I ended up at 2 life for probably 3 turns before I managed to come back with a Song of Creation Omniscience loop. Not so much fun in that in the loop, but just being able to go against 2 Turgid decks and come out on top had so much satisfaction in it.
Yeah. Talking from as a player who the fans of the show would know the game that Paul and I played together where I turned 3 poxed and won the game with Turgrid is she's pretty spicy. I'm just gonna say that.
You know, I actually have a Turgrid deck. I've played it one time and I just the dark side wasn't for me. What can I say?
Yeah, my Turgrid deck turned into a Croxer Titan of Death's Hunger deck, but I still put Turgrid in the deck. I just don't go searching for her. So if she pops up, she pops up. If she doesn't, she doesn't. Doesn't really phase me all that much. It still does what I want it to do, which is make people discard cards and sacrifice creatures. So and I get red, so I get access to like, good removal, I guess.
Tutors for Turgrid.
Yeah.
Like gamble.
I mean, Black already has tutors, Paul. It already has Vampiric Tutor.
Yeah, but who wants to run Vampiric Tutor when you can run Profane Tutor?
I mean, that's very true. I mean, I don't even run Profane Tutor in any of my decks.
And who wants to run Profane Tutor when you could just run Scheming Symmetry and help somebody out?
Scheming Symmetry.
Yeah, or like Wishcaller Talisman. See, I like Wishcaller Talisman. I picked up a copy for $1 at the card store, and Paul's like, "Why would you even need that card?" I'm like, "You just watch. Just watch, damn it. I will figure this card
honestly,
out."
sometimes it's
like,
better if you're looking across the table from a threat and you know they've got a counter spell. This gives you 2 tutors because you can just give it to someone else and let them find an answer. Yeah,
exactly. Just like, hey, I'll get something that I need, and then you go get something that you need, and we can take down that threat. And maybe I juked you, and I'm getting something to answer what you were gonna do if you answer that. Haha, see? Politics.
You know what's actually kind of a flex is if you Witchclaw Talisman and tutor for either Stranglehold, Shadow of Doubt, or Opposition Agent.
Oh.
And then when they go to tutor, you're just like,
that's funny.
Oh my
I don't know
god.
about that one, bud.
Man, you are mean. I like
See, and Paul calls me the monster.
Hey, look, I just have the ideas. I don't execute them.
I actually execute them though, and that's what I think is the funniest part.
All serial killers start off just having the ideas, though.
That's fair.
All right, let's not give me a bad rep on my own show here, all right?
Got him.
All right. Chris, did you have a play of the week or a game of the week?
I did. So I didn't win this one, but I thought like the end result was just my kind of flavor of just being hilariously ridiculous and just forcing somebody to get to their win instead of being lazy about it. So I was playing an optimized pod, so basically high power, and I was running. You know the deck, James. I was running Coma, the Cosmo Serpent.
Oh my god, I
hate
love that deck so much.
I love that deck so much. And I forget what the other 2 decks were, but they kind of were like, I don't want to be rude to them, but they didn't really do as much as what I was doing to the Joyra player across from me. And it was Joyra Weatherlight Captain. And so this guy's going bonkers on like the last turn. So on my side of the field, I had a Junk Winder, which they shouldn't have printed, but they did. I love that card. Junk Winder, Sakashima, Coma, and Coma. So his turn starts. I make 2 Coma tokens, and I tap down 2 of his permanents. They don't untap. And then he proceeds to do Joyer of Weatherlight Captain things by putting a bunch of artifacts onto the board. He has ways of bouncing back to his hand and stuff. And then he goes and he plays Aetherflux Reservoir. And so Aetherflux Reservoir is on the field. He's like, all right, I'm going to play this spell. I was like, okay, with that in a stack, I'm going to sack a Serpent and tap down Aetherflux Reservoir. He's like, okay, there's one win condition gone. And then he does like another thing, and I think it's some like sacrifice artifact shenanigans, and then I proceed to then tap down that artifact so its abilities can't be activated. And I do this 3 times to him to make sure he can't do his stuff, and then he basically finds a way to bounce everything back to his hand and play everything for free again. I'm like, all right, cool, now you win. But like, I made you work for it, okay?
It's the best thing you can do versing a combo deck is just to make them work for it.
Couldn't he also have just instant speed zapped
That's what
you
I was wondering.
on your upkeep with
No, he had Aetherflux Reservoir out on his, like, he played it on his turn.
Yeah. So couldn't he have just gained his life, then pass turn, and then on your upkeep zap you?
Well, yeah, but like, I did it like that. The whole idea was to because he wasn't trying to do it that turn, and he wanted to win that turn. He didn't want to do it.
You did not in the right. I see.
Yeah, Paul. This isn't like nitpick play of the week. This is just play of the week, mate.
Yeah, geez,
I'm
Paul.
not nitpicking. I was making sure I wasn't misreading the situation. All right.
I mean,
It's called
as
context.
long as we're nitpicking, he could have waited until you drew your card on your turn and then zapped you just to really rub it in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what I would have done.
Talk about the spice play. All right, let's move on now to our main phase 1. Jake, do you want to explain kind of what the Command the Cause is to our listeners?
So we are a charity-based EDH league. So think kind of like play EDH, but we're giving to charity and we're giving out some real prizes. So it's a lot like Commander Verse in that every single time you play a game, we've got some quirky points thrown in. It might be, the first one to deal combat damage. It might be the first one to tutor or combo off with 4 or more pieces. We've got one right now where you've got to play a partner with card from your deck and tutor the other piece out. And we change those every single week. And then we give everybody an average. So it doesn't matter how much or how little you play. It just looks at essentially your best few games. So if you want to play 20,000 games throughout the month, it gives you that much better of a chance for a better average, but it doesn't give you an innate advantage over everyone else. So everyone plays just regular games throughout the month. They keep up with their points. They submit it in, and then at the end of the month, we tally it up. Whoever wins, we actually give out top 4, win some prizes. And then the cool thing that's kind of all based around is whoever wins every single month, they get to go and actually choose what charity we're going to raise funds for in the following season. So our current season champion is Fiasco TK, and he's the one who picked for us to raise funds for City of Hope cancer treatment and research.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, we try and keep charity forefront and center of the whole thing. Of course, some people just want to jam games, and that's fine. Some people love the competition aspect. That's fine. We do some really weird things too. We've got a D&D theme going in right now. Chris here actually ran what we call a dungeon event last night for that. But yeah, it's basically just a big group of people. We come together, we play games, and then we all raise funds for a good cause at the same time, and we let the winner choose what we raise funds for.
So if any of our listeners wanted to get involved in that, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is honestly going to be to just hop into our Discord. I think we're going to share that on the podcast here. But yeah, just hop in, give yourself the lead contestant role by reacting to a quick comment, and then hop into a queue and type !LFG and you're on your way. We also have a website too. It's www.commandthecause.org. We post all of our events there, all of our results. We've got a Discord invite link there. You can see how much we've raised in previous seasons, and most importantly, you can donate there.
That was going to be my next question: is how can people donate? So all that information will be in the show notes below or the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. And I guess with that, let's get into some spicy little questions here we have for you guys, just to get to know you a little bit better and how you guys got into Magic. So, Chris, when did you start playing Magic?
I started playing back in I think it was 2012, 2013-ish, when Theros came out. Winston coincidentally makes Theros my favorite block. And I was so happy when we went to Theros Beyond Death, because it's just a whole Greek mythology thing, and I just love it.
That was what year was that? That was what, 2005?
No, it was 2012, 2013, because that was when I was about to... Because I was preparing... The only reason I remember that specifically is because I was preparing to get out of the Navy at the time.
I remember because I started with M12, course at M12, right after Innistrad came out, or when that block finished, rather. And I just remember being so excited for Theros because I am Greek. I'm 50% Greek. My dad is from Greece. So I was just like, oh, wow, my heritage. And it really bothered me how some of the names of the gods are so close to actual names of gods, but just sound weird to me because I hear the way my dad pronounces them. And they're just so clearly not what they're supposed to be to my ears. I don't know. It's weird.
Can you pronounce one in the official Greek pronunciation?
I cannot. I will butcher
darn.
it.
He's too American.
But for those of you who don't know, actually, since we're on this topic, there actually exists there is exactly one Magic card in its entire history that was printed in Greek, and it is Questing Feldegriff from Plane Shift. It was printed as a promo, and I had my dad read that card to me, and it's actually surprising how accurate it is.
Huh. That's interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, that's super cool. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, there was also, I think, the card Valor. It's a white card that gives your creatures first strike. Was printed in Hebrew. There's a whole cycle of cards that were printed in languages only one time. So if you ever get the chance, go ahead and look that up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, go Google
The
that.
more you know.
Normally we tell you don't to Google things, but go and Google that one.
One of them was printed in Sanskrit, which is actually pretty.
Sanskrit.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I don't remember what card that was.
Next, you'll tell me that there was a card, buddy, printed in Wingdings.
No, that doesn't. Unless Phyrexian counts.
Yeah.
I guess Phyrexian kind of
It
counts.
counts more than anything else.
So Jake, how did you? When did you start playing Magic?
Oh, the first time or the real time? Goodness. The first time, back when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was popular, so mid to late 90s. Didn't play it for very long back when I was a kid. Started seriously back in 2015. And it was right before Kaladesh came out. And I remember that because my very first booster box I ever bought was Kaladesh, and it had a Masterpiece Soul Ring in it. I was so excited to sell it for $150 and buy another booster box. So I did that. And to this day, that haunts me.
Isn't it amazing, like, how little we value those cards when they first come out and being like, oh, this is $150. Let's go and sell it and get a new box. And then, like right now, I think that card's, like, worth, like, $500.
I think probably $750 at this point.
Yeah.
It is pretty expensive.
Like, you'd want to go back to your older self and just be like, hey, keep that card. It's going to be worth a lot of money. Like, everybody who has, like, AB duels and everything back then who were playing them unsleeved on the concrete, and you're just like, dude, let's not do that. They're thousands of dollars now in 2021, and you'll be like 100,000 if you just kept all those like AB duels.
100,000.
If it makes you feel any better, I have owned 3 masterpieces in my time playing this game. I currently own 2. I have a Mana Crypt and I have a Crucible of Worlds. At one point, I had a masterpiece, a Chalice of the Void, and I traded that thing at, I think it was like $50 at the time. And boy, oh boy, was that a mistake.
You're killing me, Paul. Says the man who lost his tabernacle at Pendrell Vale for a good week.
I mean, to be fair, when the hell am I going to use the Chalice of the Void?
I mean, that's fair. We don't play modern, so it's totally fair. I understand it. I think the only Masterworks that I'm looking at picking up would be the Cloudstone Curio.
That's a good one.
I will never in my life own another masterpiece just out of spite. Especially, I just looked up the price while we were here talking. $964.
164?
$964.
Ah,
Oh!
okay.
Oh!
$964. Wow. Was that second booster box worth?
No,
Soul
absolutely
Ring?
not. Absolutely not.
I didn't think you'd make $1,000 out of a standard set.
No, and it wasn't even Kaladesh, which had, good value in it. It was a Monket is what I used it on.
Aether Revolt? Oh my god.
Ew.
Oofed. That's a big feel.
I think I got a
sorry.
Goldbringer out of it. It's fine. It's in a deck somewhere now, I'm sure.
Same thing, really.
But is it $965 worth? like
Hey,
fine?
it's not all about the money. Sometimes it's about the friends we make along the way.
That's it.
And the money they lost us.
Friendship is not a destination. All right. So, Chris.
Yeah.
How did you get into EDH?
So I'd actually taken a bit of a hiatus from when Theros came out because I got out of the Navy, and you know what you don't have a lot of when you leave the Navy?
Money.
You don't have a lot of money. So I had just stopped playing. I still had almost all of my cards. I just didn't play anymore. And then I had rejoined. And as a reservist, and one of the guys that I was with was like, "Hey, you play Magic?" I was like, "Well, I used to." He's like, "Do you want to play again?" I'm like, "I don't really know." Like, it was that Robbie Rotten meme. He's like, "You play Magic?" "No." Do you wanna? that thing. And and I was like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just so much money. And so he was like, well, sit down. We'll just play a quick one-on-one game. And I played, and I was like, oh my god, I love this game. This is so much fun. And since then, this is in 2018, mind you, it's been 3 years. I now own about 19 decks with 4 more being created.
I thought I was bad. I think I have like 15.
I have a lot.
I'm up to like 28, so.
Oh my lord. How do you even get a chance to play all those decks, though?
Well,
good question.
When you've got a server of 900 people just waiting to play games with you, it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to go out to your friend's house and set up a night and stop and get beer. You just go into the server.
Plus, a lot of Jake's decks are probably fun and not filthy combo decks.
Hold on a second there. Calm down for a second. So you need to calm down.
He said he was an ex-combo player.
I still dabble. I don't know if anybody would call my Paco deck fun.
It is not fun.
Yet alone my Orvar deck. Oh my gosh.
I just like decks that are, optimized. They know what they want to do. They have a good mana curve. I can do multiple things in a turn. I don't like just getting it like, I got 4 mana, I'll play a 4-drop and I'll pass and watch everyone else like take, 20-minute turns when they're doing like multiple things, and then I come back and I'm like, I'm just drop a land and pass.
James, I have a question.
I probably have an answer for you.
How many decks do you currently play that have Jewel Lotus in it?
That is actually a really good question.
Exactly.
Hold on. I've got this. Tulane, Najila, Raynar, Gishath. He just got one in him. That's actually it. Only 4 of them.
Not Geared? You don't have one in
Oh,
Geared?
yeah, sorry, Geared. Yeah, my bad. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot Geared. Like, I was looking at, I have my deck boxes on my desk. So I was staring at them, and I'm like looking at the pictures of the box. I'm like, what's in that deck? Does that deck have a Jewel Lotus in it? But yeah, those 5 are the only ones that have Jewel Lotuses in them. The Croaxer deck has a Lotus Petal. It's kind of like a Jewel Lotus, but for Croaxer, because it's a turn 1 Croaxer.
Yikes.
You sicken me.
It was your suggestion. You brought that to me. You were like, hey, Lotus Petal goes in that deck really cool because like it's a turn 1 Croaxer, and discarding a card out of their hand turn 1 just seems good. And I went, yes, it does. It's going in the deck.
I told you, I just have the ideas. You don't have to do them.
But you put the seeds in my mind, and then I have to do it. Like, that's just how it works. I go, whoa, that is a cool combo line. I have to pull this off now.
So
It's so bad that like I'll build a deck and then I'm like, yep, cool, these are all my lines, and then I'll think of a new line before I get to play it, and then I'll try and pull that line off and realize it's not in the deck.
Sounds like every time ever when I play Orvar and I like go to do the combo line and I get halfway through it, it's like, oh shoot, I don't have this combo in here. I'm gonna have to find a new one and just make it up real quick.
It's the worst feeling ever.
I kind of like it. It challenges you. It's like, how do you get out of this?
I had a moment like that. I built a deck with a friend of mine. His name's Alex. I built a deck with my friend Alex. It was Kenrith combo tribal. The deck just plays like pretty much every popular modern / legacy combo or that we could fit into a deck. And I absolutely scuffed the combo I was trying to do. But I somehow finessed it with like a karmic guide, and I forgot what else I had with it. I had a karmic guide. I made an infinite reanimate combo with Kenrith out of pure air, out of pure scratch. I completely ruined the combo I was actually trying to do, and I made it look like I always intended to do that combo that I was doing. No, I was like, nobody will notice now.
That was like my very first time playing combo on Discord. And that was like, I was playing Tulane for the very first time as a Tulane combo deck. And I got to the point where I could draw my entire library. And the guy's like, yeah, okay, so you draw your library, then what? And I was like, well, hang on a second, bro, like just chill. And he's like, where's your lab man? Where's your Jace? I'm like, I don't run those cards. I've got things in here. Like, I swear to God, I've got stuff in here. And I was so flustered and like, I felt rushed that I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to draw my deck. I'm going to lose. I'm going to go and study my deck, and I'm going to go and figure it out, and I'll come back. And I never spoke to that guy ever again.
Sounds like a good plan.
But my first experience in combo was just like, yeah, me getting like so excited to draw my entire library. And then he's like, yeah, well, now what do you do? Like, you're just going to lose because you're not going to have enough cards in your library. And since then, I've learned to always leave cards in my library.
Jake, how did you get into Commander?
I don't really have any exciting story for it. We were, when we started playing back in 2015, it's the same group of friends I still play with a lot today. In fact, I'll gladly be sitting with them later this week and drinking a beer and playing Magic. But we used to sit there and play, 4, 5, 6-person games using our 60 card kitchen table decks. And that finally just became a slog fest. We got tired of it, and we just started hearing about EDH on Reddit all the time. And finally, after a few weeks, convinced everyone to do it. I went out and bought the first collection with all 4 commander decks in it. Immediately started building a Kumina 1 because I was running Merfolk in Standard and Modern at the time, so it just seemed fitting. And I don't think I've played a 60-card format since then. Probably back in 2017.
Wow, playing a 6-person game of 60-card kitchen table.
It was interesting, but that was live for
nuts.
a while. I played I had found the dash mechanic back in Dragons of Takar. I made a dash deck with, Impact Tremors is every bit as filthy in a 60-card deck with 4 people as commander, especially with 4 of them. And
of course.
It was honestly dirty back in the day before I understood what power levels were.
You know what's funny is that I actually I started as a limited player back in, like I said, I started like right after Innistrad Block had concluded, and I started playing a lot of limited with Theros Block, and I'll never forget my first experience. I mentioned this on the show, but I don't know if you guys have heard that episode. But my first experience with Commander was I was at the shop. I was playing limited. I scrubbed out pretty early on. I just, I said, you know what, just take me out. I don't want to play anymore. And I got my pity pack. And then I went over to the table where a couple people were playing with really large decks of cards, right? And I was like, hey, what the heck are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we're playing Commander. You want to try? And I was like, Commander? What's that? Why do you have a card face up outside over there? It's like, that's my Commander. So I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll give it a shot. And this guy lends me a Niv Mizzet. What's the one from Return to Ravnica? Hive Mind?
Firemind?
Hive Mind. Draco Genius?
Firemind. There you go. No, Draco Genius. That's the one. He gives me his Niv Mizzet Draco Genius deck. And my opening hand was literally like so much mana and a couple counter spells, and I instantly fell in love. And I never stopped playing after that.
So it's really not Commander you love. It's countering other people's spells.
Counterspell.
I think it's the appeal of Commander to me is like just all the cards you can play. You can do so many more things on any given turn than you can in other formats. Like, there's just so many different things that can happen in a game that it really is a different experience each time. Like, I've never had a Commander game that was exactly the same as the previous one, even in higher powered pods.
I've had decks run like quite similarly to a game before. So like I had one deck 2 times in a row and come out with almost the same turn 1. That actually just happened to me recently when I went to the card store. I played Duretti, and my opening hand was Mana Crypt into a Jeweled Lotus into a 1-drop something. And then like the next game, same thing happened, and the guy was like, "Are you like cheating?" I was like, "No, man, you watched me shuffle and you cut my deck for me." So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And I was like, all right, cool. I guess turn 1 Duretti again, Mana Crypt out, and here's a Expo map. I was like, yep, cool.
I think a lot of that comes down to your mindset with Commander. Like you say games aren't the same ever, and I think that's true, but I think it's true only if that's what you make out of it. If you're sitting there at a competitive table, I think it's pretty likely that somebody's going to have a demonic tutor. They're going to tutor for the same card every single time. And
yeah, that's true.
What it comes down to is just not doing that. I that Chatterfang deck I said I'm waiting for in the mail. I took my tutors out of it because I knew every single time I had a tutor, I was just going to tutor for Pitiless Plunderer and win. And that's not fun because, like you said, it's the same thing. So I cut them out, and yeah.
Yeah, I guess like the fun side of Commander is taking out it's adding the variance. So taking out the tutors and adding the variance. So you're worried about like what you're going to draw and not what you can just tutor out as quick as possible. I guess that's kind of where I sat with Commander for a while. It's like, well, now I have access to all these tutors, and now it's the restraint of not putting every single tutor that I own into a deck, even if it's in those colors. Because it's like, do I still want this deck to be fun? Yes. If I have a tutor, what am I going to tutor for? You know, is it going to be removal, or is it going to be like a stacks piece, a hate piece, a ramp piece? Like, what am I going to tutor for? So it was just like, when I put Gear Raid back together, I was like, all right, there's going to be very minimal amount of tutors in there, and I think I only have 2 in there, and I go and get different things at all the time because there is no combos in that deck. It's literally like, I'll go and tutor for a Morog if I need to win, or I'll tutor for... God, I've tutored for a dork before because I needed the ramp to get into my 5th drop to be able to then get into my commander. So
Hey,
I mean,
look, I have demonic tutored and vampiric tutored for Cavern of Souls more times than I can count on 2 hands.
I've vampiric tutored for lands a lot too.
I am not ashamed of it.
Like, sometimes you just have to. Like, you've got a really good hand, but you have like a 4-drop, you only have 3 mana, and you have a vampiric tutor. You're like, I'll just go get another land. I have recursion in this deck. I can get that vampiric tutor back and use it for something else later if I want to.
Well, and if you've got in your opening hand, you're like, okay, I'm going to keep this. I know I can turn it into a land, but if not, I can do something fun with it. It just opens up a lot of options.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like, if you're not tutoring for the same thing every single game that you play that deck, unless that deck literally has like 1 line in it that you're trying to achieve every single time, then that just becomes like a 100-card modern deck, really.
Yeah, I agree. One of my biggest stance on tutors is just, I generally just don't run them, or like you said, I'm gonna go for a different card every time. Like my Hydra deck, Gargos, everyone knows it. Worldly tutors in there, but I'm like, sometimes I just want a 3-drop, or sometimes I need that like a big dumb Hydra to come onto the field at some point. So
yeah, I mean that's totally it. So we're gonna ask one more question, and we're gonna go to an ad break here. So Jake, can you tell us the story of how Command of the Cause came to be?
Oh, yes. Man, it's a little embarrassing, though, so I'm going to need this to be a judgment-free zone.
No judgment here at all.
Always is, always has been, always will be.
So...
Man, you can ask us how Commander-at-Arms started. That's pretty embarrassing, too.
So this was back in... This was like mid-November, probably. And, you know, I'm a single bachelor. I'm just... I live alone, minus my dog. So I'm sitting here one night in November, and I'm drinking a beer, and I'm watching, of all things, a chick flick rom-com about Christmas. I went through this mood one day. I watched like 3 of them. I don't know what got into me. But I was watching a movie called Operation Christmas Child. And I won't spoil it for any of you rom-com fans out there. But basically, you know, they save Christmas for all these people, and you see a guy do this big generous feat or whatever. And I was sitting there, and you know, I was very gifted all throughout COVID. You know, I got to keep my job and live comfortably, and unfortunately, a lot of people didn't. And I knew that with Christmas coming around, that was going to be a problem for some people. And I was sitting there, and I was like, man, I wish I could do something like this. I wish I could make a little Islanders Christmas Day. And I was just sitting there having some drinks, and about 2 a.m. I woke up. I know this is how every story goes, but I swear to God, I woke back up at 2 a.m. that night. It's like, I've got it. I can do an EDH league. You know, I can partner with Play EDH. I can get people online to start rallying together for the cause. So at the very next day I got started, I was involved within another community at the time, and I was talking to them about it. Unfortunately, I did not get it done in time for Christmas, so I didn't get to achieve my goal there. But the idea just kind of kept going on. I always wanted to play in an EDH league, so I started researching points. I paid a guy off Fiverr to make a bot for us, which, if you join our server, probably know there's no bot in there. It didn't work. That was a whole episode in and of itself. But yeah, it was just your typical 2 a.m. fever dream, sitting there watching a movie about people doing good in the world while I was sitting there being lazy on my couch and wanted to do something to give back and to try and capture a little bit of that feeling. And we've been capturing it ever since.
In my head, when you were telling that story, I can imagine it was like 2 a.m. It was a dimly lit room, and then you like woke up jumped out of bed covered in sweat going, I have to do this.
That's exactly what it was. I got out of bed, and I don't keep my phone by my bed sometimes so I can help sleep. I got out of bed and I walked over to my phone and I got on Discord in the community I was part of. I was like, guys, you got to hear this idea.
If anybody like writes the screenplay for this, like if this ever became a movie and someone has to write the screenplay, like I want to see that scene that I see in my head on the screen, because that's just, it's like that's a rom-com in itself, essentially.
It is, minus the fact I'm still single. So ladies, if you're out there, hit me up.
Also, tune into Jake's soon to come rom-com podcast where he discusses all the latest Hallmark movies.
Oh yeah, the way I like it. I do, while we're on the subject though, I will give a shout out. My co-founder, his Discord tag is Foot and Mouth. We were part of the same group. Never met this guy a day in my life in real life. But we were part of the same community, and he got on board. And he's like, yeah, I'll help out a little bit. And little did he know he was going to be doing more work than me, probably. And ever since day one of inception, he's been incredibly supporting. He's helped to make this a reality. Couldn't do it without him. Sad he couldn't be here with us today, but definitely want to give a shout out to him, because he's done, like I said, every bit of what I've done for this and then some.
That's awesome. We'll get him on the show eventually when we get you guys back. Maybe we'll have his over to do some gameplay stuff with us when we eventually get that up and running. But lastly here, before we go into our ad break, Chris, how did you get involved with Command the Cause?
So my story is probably the same with a lot of people. In the what I like to call the Great Hiatus, or the Great Migration from Play EDH. I've been playing in Play EDH for a little while, but like I'd stopped playing, and that's kind of how I came upon your guys' server, James and Paul.
Yeah.
Because like the people just kind of sucked there. For one, it was really hard to like gauge any power levels and stuff, and then I moved servers to you guys' server, and it was a little bit better for sure. Everyone's decks were, for the most part, on the same power level, and we had talks, and we were all cool with each other. And then Play EDH decided to do their, hey, we're going to charge you money now, and we're going to make it so that we try to be, all-encompassing, but we're actually not. And I was like, oh, that's not cool. That's super not cool. So, with another word, I dipped out of there. I saw a Reddit post talking about a bunch of different other servers, and one of them that popped up on there was the Command the Cause one. I was like, oh, I'll take a look at it. Why not? And now here we are, where I'm now part of the mod team with them, and I work on the Sunday streams that we have, where we'll grab one of the community members and some of the other guys and play a game or two of some Commander on Sundays while streaming it.
It took me a few attempts to get Albino on board, but we wouldn't be here without him now.
He's become an integral part of the mod.
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely one of our most engaged community members as a whole, and I know about computers about as much as I know about rocks. I can throw them. So I literally, our stream, everything that comes from that could not be possible without Chris here.
I love my computers. What can I say? But thank you.
I wish I had a better gaming computer so that I could be streaming as well. But Paul and I are gonna try and fix that eventually soon. But no, man, that sounds really cool how you guys got started and everything. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to move to our combat phase, and everyone knows this is where we're going to go and hear a message from our sponsors right now. Welcome back from that ad break. We're going to continue our discussions and conversations with Chris and Jake from Command the Cause. So, fellas, we've got some more questions here for you. I'm going to start with this. This one's pretty spicy. I like this question a lot. I think this is actually a question that Paul brought up, and it was a brand new player comes to you and says, I want to build a commander deck. What commander/strategy would you recommend to them, and why?
That really is a hard one, and I've answered that question so many times. So I went back and I've been thinking about it, and I don't think I've ever given the same answer twice. I think, especially for a new player, it's good to ask them, what elements do you like about the game? Have you seen anything about a deck that you like? how well do you understand the rules, and then go from there. But as I'm thinking about it, if I had to go with just one kind of a deck, one strategy, no information else about the new player, I would probably have to go with some kind of tribal. Just show them pictures of different tribes. Say, hey, what's your favorite fantasy creature or something, and then go from there. Just, I don't know. They're easy to figure out. They can do a lot of different stuff. They can be aggro. They can be combo, and you can kind of resonate with them. I think any little 5-year-old boy loves dragons and can resonate with a dragon deck, and I think that's important in Commander. To keep it a social aspect and to always have fun is have some kind of a resonance or some kind of a connection with your deck, even if it's something very superficial.
That's actually a really good answer and not one that I had considered myself. Like, honestly, Elf Ball was coincidentally probably a really good deck for people to start off with. Like, it's elves. People know what elves look like for the most part. There's very little difference between elves, even between different, like, interpretations of them. Like, Wood Elves in D&D look a lot like the card Wood Elf from Magic, which also looks a lot like Wood Elves from Skyrim, which also looks like,
Legolas from Lord of the Rings. People. It's easy for people to identify with and kind of understand or have some kind of a connection with.
Yeah, that's actually that's a really good answer.
I just want to follow up a little bit here, before we ask Chris. Now, you said everyone likes dragons, or if someone said, like, oh, I like dragons, and you want to build dragon tribal, which dragon commander would you suggest for them?
I think the Dragon is a pretty cut and basic one there. I think he's got an ability that's relatively easy to use. This is someone who's never built a commander or a dragon deck. Either that or I was gonna say the new Tiamat, but I think that's too hard. I would probably just go with the Dragon, especially they could pick up the pre-con and have a really easy starting point.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad answer. I was leaning more towards Tiamat, but I guess, like, me as an experienced player, kind of knowing, like, what I could go and get with Tiamat's ETB ability, maybe Dragon is the best one for a new starter player.
Or better yet, do Morphon and say, hey, it's called Elder Dragon Highlander for a reason. You have to play Elder Dragon Tribal. And then that's their deck, Elder Tribal. Like, that's what you have to start with. It's a rule.
Wow, that's cool.
See, but the problem with Morphon is that it might not be intuitive to a new player that it reduces colored costs of cards.
Well,
but I digress.
Insert Elder Dragon Commander here, then.
Yeah, okay. Chris, what about yourself?
So, Jake's answer was super good and makes my answer kind of like not as awesome. But for me, I sit there and I say, what is the easiest thing to do? Swing face. You just go, you put a creature on board, you say, I attack. That's the easiest thing. So for me, I would recommend, like, Galia of the Endless Dance or another, like, aggro style commander, and then just beat face. That's all I want the player to do, because that's the simplest thing you can do, and it's also super effective. And the reason why I specifically said Galia is because I actually built a beginner Galia deck that, and her effect just allows her to refill your hand when you swing with a lot of creatures. So that's why I specifically like that deck a lot in terms of teaching a new player how to, or giving a beginner a new deck or a deck for the first time and letting them go, I put creature, I swing.
Galia is a card I actually forgot existed.
She's awesome, dude.
I actually that's another very good answer because it brings to light like something that probably wouldn't see play if not for being in the hands of somebody who just needs something to just do. Just turn stuff sideways, get rewarded for it. And I think both of your answers were pretty great in their own respective ways because of that.
Chris, isn't Galia a Satyr tribal commander?
She is.
Apparently, a lot of people don't build her Satyr tribal. I did because I thought it was silly.
See what I say? Tribal. What I say? Tribal.
Tribal wins out.
I'm also more of a tribal player myself anyway. Like, my first deck was Knights Tribal, and then my second deck was Hydra Tribal. So I mean,
I've played against your Hydra Tribal deck too, and it's pretty good. It's pretty stompy. It's pretty it's really good. I know when I taught brand new players to play Commander, it was just Magic in general. I gave them Geared, Exile Conclave, and Obun, Muldire's Ancestor, because they're both just, put cards on the field and then swing with them, or whenever you do something else happen. Like it has doubling season in it to make more rhinos, but basically, like, it was just put everything on the board and, just swing with those and then kind of calculate damage from there, because I thought that was just the easiest way to teach them how to play. So when we played when they played their very first pod, it was 3 Naya decks and a Teamer deck. So it was Gishat Sun's Avatar, Obun, and Geared, and I was playing Calamax, big old Thunderbutt.
It sounds like at least one of those was a tribal deck.
The Dino deck was a tribal deck. I like to think that my Geared deck is a tribal deck because it makes rhinos, and that's all I really use to populate is just the rhinos. So it just makes a lot of rhinos. And then the Obun deck is obviously a landfall, lands matters deck. And that was really fun to show a new player that, like, hey, your resources can become creatures to swing in and attack. Like, that's a whole other aspect of the game that I didn't get to show them in the Jumpstart game that we played earlier in the night, to kind of give them the idea of, like, how to cast spells and what a land is and what different kinds of cards are. And they caught on really quick, and, sometimes they weren't drawing every single turn, and I was like, hey man, always be drawing, ABD, always be drawing. And it was super interesting and fun to see a new player who has never played Magic before, and was very much like, well, what about this legendary? Like, what about this character? Like, oh, can I be this character? It was like, no, like, your deck is like, you don't actually play as a character like in D&D, and they were like, oh, but they were thinking it was kind of like D&D aspects where it's like, you role played as a character. And I was like, well, you're technically role playing as, the leader of an army, and you have a general, and then all the spells you cast come out of your brain kind of thing. And that kind of made them more, I guess it was easier for them to understand the way that the game worked then, outside of, like, being a card game.
I mean, to be honest, Magic, it is pretty much D&D. You are the character, right? You are a planeswalker, and the only difference is that the spells that you're casting have actual, like, costs and, paper material forms.
Man,
Yeah.
I wish you guys could have been a fly on the wall in our conversation yesterday. One of our events we do called, unquote, quote, the dungeon, is like mixing D&D with it. And I've never played D&D much in my life. So I was talking to Chris and one of our other mods, and I was like, guys, how do we make this game more like D&D? So anytime you have someone wanting to play D&D, send them our way. We can mix the two for them.
I am a dungeon master.
All you gotta do is voice act. That's how you mix the two.
That's really it, yeah.
Really over-exaggerate your turns and what you're doing. And just like, I draw my card for turn.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, yes, it's the card that I wanted. Yeah, just like really Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, animate it out. And that's how you would roleplay a game of Magic.
Play your next pathetic card, Yugi. My father says, does it have any pathetic cards? Kyla?
How many times have we made that joke at a table? And
Oh my god.
like, that would be the funnest way to record a gameplay, would just be like the voiceovers being like, ha 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 ha, you've only got one more turn left before I execute my infinite combo and win the game, Kaiba. Maybe not Kaiba for, like, copyright reasons, but ha ha ha, Jake.
It sounds like we need to do a game, and then we take Yu-Gi-Oh! Voice lines and dub them over ours for the whole thing.
Yes.
That sounds like a copyright claim waiting to happen.
No. What we'll do is we'll take their lines and slightly alter it and change them, make them our own, but take, like, their vibe and their, like their inspiration, and we'll make it Magic wise, and we'll do, like, a Magic anime gameplay series.
That honestly sounds great.
You've heard it here first.
Funny, yeah.
Commander-at-Arms and Command the Cause collab anime styled gameplay
Yes.
videos may or may not be in the works.
So many misplays incoming, by the way, because of that acting.
It'd be so. I'm so down for that.
You know what's funny? When I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, I would actually draw just like Yugi.
Yeah, same.
Because I was a little kid, and I remember one time my friends we were all playing, and they're like, "Look, he even draws like Yugi," and I was like, "Oh man, they must really think highly of me." And now as an adult, I look back, I was like, "Ah, those little jerks were making fun of me."
Poor little nerd me.
You told an embarrassing story on the podcast. I'm going to let everybody in a little embarrassing story about myself here now. Because you said you drew like Yugi. My brother got one of the Shadow Realm dual discs for Christmas. And I got the regular one for Christmas. And we would stand in the backyard of our house. And we would, have a duel while in the backyard. And I'd be like, draw my card for turn. Oh, I set 2 cards down and play Stone Giant in face up to attack position. It's your turn, and like act out and everything. And our backyard was not very private, and we were doing it one day, and I could hear the neighbors snickering and like laughing at us, and I was like, "Oh, this is super embarrassing." But we enjoyed it. We were like 15 and 10 or something, whatever our ages were. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. But we used to do a lot of that stuff anyway, so which kind of got me into like the D&D aspect of it. Like we used to like run around with rakes and like any kind of like gardening tool and use it as swords. And we got told not to a lot of the times by our parents, but we did it anyway because what's the fun of like hitting each other with sticks?
You guys don't still do that?
Look, okay, I would still do that if I had a backyard. Let's be honest.
I would do it if I had a back that worked.
The only difference between then and now is now his parents can't yell at him about it.
I was going to say, anytime I pick up any kind of tool that has like a long pole, I instantly become a ninja.
Yeah, dude. Like I still like when I was working with pools, I would like the skimmer. Because it was long enough, I'd still swing it around like it was a bow staff and just do like ninja things with it. While I was at work, like I was walking around like people paid guests who were paid, to be at the resort, and I'm just slinging this bloody the pool skimmer around and like flinging it around and stuff like it's a boat staff, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't do this. I guess old habits die hard.
Are you telling me you don't keep a pair of lightsabers handy in the living room for these kind of moments? Because I do.
No, they're actually in the closet, but they're also the glass ones that sit on the shelf.
Oh, yes.
They're like the really expensive, like black ones, like the black branded ones, I think they're called.
The really nice ones.
Yeah, the really nice ones. So not saying that I have the plastic ones, but there also was a year at Christmas where I bought Kylo Ren's lightsaber and his mask, and my brother bought Anakin's lightsaber. And we full on had a mad like lightsaber duel in the backyard of my mom's place. And it was recorded. And I think I still have the video somewhere where we like voice act lines and everything. And like there was full on like stunts being performed. And like he was pushing me back with the force. I was like falling back on the ground. And I, sweeped his leg and he'd fall over. And it was brutal, bro. Like
you swept the leg. Oh
yeah, sweep the leg. You always gotta sweep the leg. Yeah, I mean, that's just what we did. I mean, I grew up in a very rural small town in Australia. So, I mean, we really didn't have that much to do when we were growing up besides playing video games. And because there were so many of us kids, my parents would kick us outside. And what we'd have to do was just beat each other up because it's fun,
Good old days.
Anyway, we digressed down some weird rabbit hole there about role-playing and stuff. I'm going to ask another question here. Jake, what has been your favorite Magic experience of all time?
I think that might be the hardest one. And I'm going to have a really weird answer for it. But I think just making Command the Cause, and specifically, if I had to think of one specific moment while playing Magic that I think is my favorite, a few weeks ago, probably a month now, we were doing a Flash event, and it's called a Bounty. Basically, it's an arch enemy game, and there's some modifiers. And it was my first time letting somebody else run the event, and I'm used to I'm used to my Paco deck doing it, so I'm confident in the power level it's going to present. And then they started losing pretty badly. So I was there, I had been relaxing that night. I'd had a couple of drinks, and I hop in the game and I just start DMing it. Never played D&D in my life, never DM'd in my life. And I just started making them roll dice in the middle of the game and changing the rules on them. And that's kind of where our current Flash event that we've been doing comes from. But just that first time doing it, and everyone's just sheer laughter at the ridiculousness of what was happening in that game has easily got to be my favorite single game or set period of Magic.
That sounds like it would have been a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, honestly, it was way more fun when we had no rules and we were just making it up than it is now. But
I mean, you've got to have rules and some sort of structure to it. Otherwise, it just becomes like unbridled chaos.
oh, and that's that's what it was. I can guarantee you that. I think I was using Uno cards at one point to reverse turns and skip turns.
Wow. Talk about like mashing like 4 or 5 IPs together to come up with this brilliant idea for a new game.
Hey, if Wizards can bring in outside IPs, so can I. Mine just happen to be Crazy Eights.
It's like draw 4. Oh, actually, draw 4s would be really good in Magic.
Yeah, one might almost say too good.
Yeah. Maybe the wild cards. It's like you draw 4, but you can only play spells of certain colors for that turn.
I think you're sleeping on the most powerful Crazy Eight card in Magic.
Yeah, what's that?
The red 5. Just think of everything you could do with that in Magic.
I've never played Crazy 8, so I don't know.
Yeah. There are endless possibilities of what you could do with that card in Magic, but the rules would just be ridiculous to keep up with.
I mean, the rules we have for our final D&D little crossover game. I mean, Chris can probably tell you they're pretty extensive. I feel like
They're very extensive.
it's probably 2 or 3 pages of Google Docs for each one.
Wow. I write a Google Doc for the script every single week, and I know how intensive that is, and it's just literally just dot points of like talking points what we're going to be doing. So I couldn't imagine doing it for every single like a card or interaction that you had.
Chris, what about you? Favorite Magic experience all time?
Boy, once again, it's a pretty loaded question. Cause like it's hard to pick and choose, right? What my favorite thing is, but honestly, we're gonna go like fully corny with this. It's the friends we make along the way.
Go on.
Then crushing my enemies, but
It's not like just, turning coma sideways or like sacking, coma coils to tapping down your opponent's things.
I mean, so talk about that. Like, I mean, when I tested that game against you guys, like, I didn't even I don't think I even had Coma onto the field. I might have, but like, it was Scoot Swarm that won that game. So I mean,
yeah, you were like, I'm not sure what power level this deck is, so I'm just gonna play it and see what it is. So I played Najeela, I think, because I was like, that's a good like turning point of like kind of see like where your power level was, and you just wiped the floor with all of us. I was like, okay,
Coma strong.
like yeah, Najeela's pretty well optimized, very much on like the higher end scale of high, maybe close to CDH, and it just went off. But I mean, unfortunately, like that thing is really equipped to versing other like CDH level decks, so I can see where it kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah, I think then talking about that a little bit, favorite Magic experience is just all the experiences, especially deck building. Like I love deck building. And I like trying to find new and interesting ways to show off my capabilities as like a player, and just the random nonsense that I can think of. Especially with a new deck that I'm planning right now, which is just I'll just say it right now. It's just called Angry Tribal. You can think of that for a second.
Every card has like a mad angry face on it.
Not quite.
Oh. Is every card anger?
I wish.
Does every card make somebody angry?
The cards themselves are going to get angry.
Enrage?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Enrage is like the only mechanic I could think of that would make them angry.
It's the Enrage mechanic, and there's a new card that was spoiled, and I'm very excited to play with it.
Oh.
Yeah! Angry Tribal!
Is that the Dragon Lord guy?
All right. I see where you're going with this.
Kinda, yeah.
Whoa. Spoiler alert, much. Jeez.
Hey, we didn't say a name, it's okay.
All right. Well, back to Jake. What would you say is one way that Magic has helped you?
Honestly, for me, Magic has always just been about the social aspect, at least prior to getting involved with the Command the Cause and everything. Just being a way to sit around with friends and drink beer and not have to go out of the house or do anything. You can just sit there at the table and tell stories and goof off, but you've got something to occupy you. And just having that to kind of help bring me together with certain friend groups is easily got to be the best part. I was talking about it earlier, but the people I started playing Magic with, they're still my best friends. I'm still going and playing Magic and drinking beers with them later this week. And I like to think it's helped keep us together and helped keep us friends in its own way. And that's that. I guess that's kind of copying Albino, but the friends we make along the way, and it helps with that, even for existing friends.
Yeah, it was the same for me when I'm from New York originally, and when I first moved down here, obviously I didn't know anybody. But one of the first things I did was go on. I think I went on Facebook or something, and I posted in like a Magic group, like, "Hey, I just moved down here. I'm looking for people to play with." And then one of my closest friends down here, John, he reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, at the time I lived in Davenport. He's like, I live in Davenport too. I play Magic. We can get together sometimes and play." And at the time, it was just me and him. We play 1v1. He had a friend named Chad that he played with sometimes that also joined us. And then John's neighbor Alex, which I mentioned earlier, we found out he also plays. And now that just became my play group. Still is a play. I play with them. Used to be about once a week, but we haven't played in a little while. I've been having some car trouble and stuff. So, but yeah, that just goes to show, like, as much as Magic is just a game, which is a healthy way to look at it, it really does open up a lot of opportunities for socializing that you wouldn't otherwise have.
So it's almost like it's in the name, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
I feel like in the last year, because of the world stopping and everything, we kind of lost the gathering aspect of Magic, and we kind of got into this whole like webcam disassociation with Rule Zero and trying to keep it fun at the table for everybody instead of just you, because you're not really having to be in the same room as someone that you've just pub stomped. But I guess, like, in the vein of what Paul said, I mean, I moved to this country and I really only had one person to play Magic with, and that was my partner. And we got sick of versing one-on-one, and she was working at a bookstore, and they we asked if we could host like a Magic night on Fridays, because, I mean, Friday night's the day the night where everyone plays Magic, and in Davenport, there is no local LGS. So we just took, well, I guess it was a local GS, because, L stands for local in LGS. Anyway, so we kind of organized this Magic night where for the first 3 weeks it was just me and her again playing in a cafe up there at the bookstore at Books A Million in Davenport, and then slowly but surely people started showing up. We got our friend Micah who came in, and then he brought his friend Sean, and then randoms started showing up, and then there was Michael and Gary and all that, and some really cool guys that we still talk to now. We haven't really hung out as much as we used to back then, because that was once a week we would do that because it was Friday nights Magic, and we haven't really hung out that much or played that much with them since because of everything. But now with everything opening back up, I'm going to try and get some games organized with them again. But really having that gathering aspect of like meeting people who have something in common, and because you have Magic in common, it's really easy to form friendships with with just strangers you've never met before, because you have, everyone's seen the same Magic cards that you've seen and kind of come to the same conclusion that you've come to, and the jokes that just kind of happen around those cards is just, it flows out so nicely and so easily. And then, like, I think Paul, you just showed up one day at BAM. I think we've told the story a couple times on the podcast now of how, we got to hang out, and you rocked up with your backpack on and was like, "Hi, I'm Paul." And that was it. Yeah. You flitted straight into the group, and we all had a lot of fun with each other and just got to, play more and more Magic.
I think, everybody loves talking about themselves, and not everybody loves listening to other people. And the thing about Magic is we all love talking about Magic, of course. That's what we're doing here. But we all love listening about Magic. I love hearing people talk about their favorite deck. I hope they love hearing me talk about my favorite deck. And it's just a really easy way to break down that barrier between wanting to talk and being okay with listening.
Yeah, it's like one of the best icebreakers whenever you meet a new, like when you go to, like, when I go to Johnny B's, which is my LGS, I still feel a little bit like, ooh, like I don't know anyone in there at the moment kind of thing. But then, like, you open it up to, like, everyone knows, you sit at the Magic counter and you can just like I was there the other day to pick up something, and this guy walked up to next to me and he's like, "I'll take a pack of Modern Horizons 2, trying to crack a fetch land." And we got into a conversation just because he did that. And I was like, oh, there's fetch lands, yada, yada, yada. And we got into a conversation about fetch lands and cold foiling and Modern Horizons 2 as a set and everything. And this is a guy that I never met before. And I was like, all right, cool. See you later, man. And that was it. That was it. Done.
Wait, did you really say, oh, those fetch lands? Like, that's such a dad way to introduce a conversation.
Yeah, man, of course I did. He was like, I'm going to try and crack a fetch land. I was like, oh, those fetch lands, eh? Oh, buddy. Like, let me tell you a story about them fetch lands.
Those fetch lands, they're really something.
I may not be a dad, but my dad jokes and are just on another level, bro. But I mean, it started a whole conversation about fetch lands and about cold foiling and Modern Horizons 2 as a full set. And then when we were done with the conversation, I didn't even catch the guy's name. I just said, all right, mate, I'll see you later. And he was like, yep, cool. And just off he went. And then he went and played Magic and I went and jumped in the car and came home.
Jake, we've been doing all this talking. Haven't heard from you yet. What's one way Magic has helped you?
Actually, that was me who hasn't talked about that yet.
Oh, yes, Chris. Sorry, I had the right person in mind, and I said the wrong name.
It's all good. It's all good. It just always makes me laugh. So the whole social thing is always great, but for me, I've always been a bit of a social butterfly. So for me, that's not like I'll always be that person who comes up and talks to other people. That's always what I'm gonna do. For me, though, Magic has helped me personally improve my critical thinking skills and my capabilities of ordering situations. And the reason I say this is because when you play Magic, and this is almost pretty much everyone, we've all seen this and we've all done it. It has a way of doing two different things to you. It has a way of either making you a bit more emotional, especially when that big thing comes down and someone just removed your big thing, or someone removed your maybe inconsequential thing. And there's a much bigger threat on the table, and you're like, my emotions are going crazy, and that can kind of breed a bit of toxicity. We've all seen a little bit of that, or even been part of that. But then the other thing that can happen, especially as you play more and you get more used to it, is it allows you to take a step back, especially you can take a step back, look at the board, and examine things in a different eye, essentially, especially if you remove yourself from the emotional portion of it. And you can sit there and you can analyze everything happening in front of you, and it can help you make much better decisions onto which is a more important thing to deal with now, and then what can I deal with later that won't immediately impact me now. And that has a way of making itself back into real life situations, and can help you not be that person who just stands there, not be the bystander who is just in the way at this point. It helps you become more of take an active role in especially very crazy situations that just happen, whether it be someone yelling at another person or yelling at you and you're not able to handle it or whatever, or when much bigger situations happen, like the collapse of that condo in Florida. I believe it was in Florida. And, people taking action right away versus people not doing anything and just standing there and being like, oh my God. So thanks, Magic the Gathering.
I think what that is herd mentality of the someone else will do it, so what, I don't have to do it, is what it kind of helps you to prevent from happening, I guess.
Right.
Well, I think that happens in Magic all the time when people, see a big threat and of course they have removal and they hit something else or they don't do anything about it. And people are like, oh, you're not going to take care of that? I was like, nah, it's not really bothering me right now. I'll let somebody else take care of it.
Right. And that's part of that thing too, where you can sit there and be like, well, that's a big problem, but that's not the worst problem.
Yeah, the worst problem is having a big old threat on the board and not using your removal straight away. I understand that you want to try and keep your removal for when something is really oppressing you, but this is where politics comes into Commander and talking to you and be like, I can get rid of that if I get something from the other two players that's going to benefit me later down the track, because I'm going to waste my removal spell and you guys are going to have your removal spells when you get them. Don't use them on my thing because I got rid of that let you play Magic.
Right, exactly. And I 100% agree with that too. It's like you need to, it helps you make those decisions, in my opinion, on the fly without letting your emotions get in the way, and not just coming out there and be like, oh, that's a big problem, I should get rid of that right now, or looking at it and then looking at everyone else's boards and being like, that may seem like a problem, but is it? Unless it's Niv-Mizzet, then is actually the answer.
Is it? Yes, it is. When it comes to Niv-Mizzet, the answer is yes, it is always a problem.
It's always a problem.
You know, Chris, I actually thought about answering that the same way. I think that's a really good outlook on it. The strategic thinking that it brings in, we think it's a game, but it's, you know, some people sit around and do a crossword puzzle every day. We sit around and play a game of Magic every day. It keeps you sharp. I think that was a really good answer because I almost used it too, so I like that.
Thank you. It's also had studies done on it that helps to stave away / prevent Alzheimer's and dementia. So play more Magic.
Unless you play that one card, Altar of... What is it called?
Altar of Dementia.
You just do fast pace your dementia track.
See, I got there. Funny jokes. Dad jokes are on a whole new level. All right, so lastly, we've got one last question we're going to ask you guys before we get out of here for the week. Jake, what mechanic, if any, do you feel is most underrepresented in Commander?
Phasing in and phasing out, absolutely. No question about it. I was thrilled when we got that new Teferi. What is it? Teferi Master of Time last year or so. And I think we need way more of that, especially from a defensive point of view. I think phasing something out is just such a cool idea to protect it, but not give you the advantage of it still being there. And I think we need 10 times more of it than we have now.
So I just want to clarify. You mean phasing in terms of
like Teferi's Protection or something?
Right. Well, I was going to say because Teferi's Protection is one of the most popular white cards in the format.
Well, yeah, but there's not a lot of cards that do that though.
Right. So you just mean in terms of like just pure value as a protection mechanic, not a one time like, all my stuff's gone for now. It'll come back on my turn.
Exactly.
You mean like you want to phase stuff?
Yep. Like constantly. I was excited when Teferi Master of Time came out for a while. I thought he could phase your own creatures out, and then it's either protection or it's defense, and it's just so flexible. You can protect your own stuff. You can keep something from hitting you. You can make a deal and save somebody else's thing. And yeah, I want repeatable effects of that, and I want it to just be a more present aspect of the game.
You know what was cool about them reintroducing phasing to me is that it really shows how much more complicated this game has gotten, that this mechanic that they actually stopped because of how complex it was, right? Which was basically the reason why they stopped doing it, is now just like something that we understand completely. No questions asked. Like you just say, you treat it like it doesn't exist. That's all you need to say. And now all of a sudden phasing is fine.
Yeah, I mean, look at Oubliette. Oubliette got a full rework, I guess an Oracle text to make it work more in Modern Magic, and I love that card. That card needs to see more play, and we need more reprints of Oubliette.
Doesn't it permanently take out a commander now?
Didn't we just say phasing is really easy to understand, and we're like...
It's complicated.
Or awkward silence.
No, it doesn't, because it would get exiled, and then you could still choose to, from exile, put it into the command zone.
Oh, no. So, but if Oubliette leaves and you counter the trigger to bring it back in, it stays phased out, and you can't move it to the command zone when it's phased out.
Yeah, because it doesn't technically move. It doesn't move zones, and the only way you can move commanders is by moving zones.
It's the same as if you do it with Rune. If you flicker something with Rune and then you stifle the effect, the commander is just gone forever.
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe we don't need more of it now that I'm thinking about all the times my commander would cease to exist. Gosh.
Taking away one of the aspects of the game is to play your commander, and then you're just like, oh no, it's gone forever. Like you can never get that.
It's like it literally doesn't exist. You have a 99 card deck now.
I feel like as we're talking, like that meme where the numbers and everything are going over that lady's face is Paul right now. He's trying to think of like what's the best way to explain how this works.
Well, I mean, the real trick is to find a way to phase out Oubliette, right?
Yeah. We need more tools so that we can break Oubliette.
I think I had come up with something one time where it's like if you have like Opalescence out and a Panharmonicon and you Oubliette and you target somebody's creature and your own Oubliette, that I think that works. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm fairly sure it does because the first trigger of Oubliette happens. Oubliette goes away or whatever, and then the other trigger ooblet happens, but because there's no more ooblet on the battlefield, ooblet can't leave the battlefield, so you just phase something out forever.
Yeah. So I guess go nuts with that.
Do whatever you see fit with phasing. Yeah. I love it how we were just like, it's super easy to understand. And now here we are. Like, how does this really work again?
It really is, but oubliette wasn't always worded with phasing.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work quite as well as other phasing cards do.
Yeah, I think we just got that new one in Modern Horizons 2 that phases out all your creatures, like the mini Teferi's Protection, and I love that. I want to see more of it.
Yes, and that card is sick.
I haven't got it yet. I haven't got to play it yet, but one of these days.
Chris, right name this time.
Hey.
What mechanic do you feel is most underrepresented, Commander?
So, Ikoria came out not too long ago, and Ikoria is awesome. I think a lot of people can agree that we got a lot of really cool stuff in Ikoria. I was a super huge fan, initially, of Mutate. I love the mechanic of Mutate because there's just so much cool nonsense you can do with it. But, looking at it more critically, taking a look at the mechanic as a whole, and sitting there, it's like, well, this is like Bestow, but with, like, not as good. Because Bestow came out back in Theros, and it was an awesome mechanic. It was basically you take an enchantment creature, turns into an aura. When that creature dies, you have a creature. You still have a creature. So you can still actively have some defense on your side of the board. When you mutate, that's it. They take that creature out, it's gone for good. Or at least unless you play a bunch of reanimation. And then this made this really very kind of talked about mechanic. And it was talked about a lot, kind of fell on its face, except for like one or two fringe cards, them being like Nethroi, who's just like, yeah, I'll mutate and get all your stuff out your graveyard. So, while we got a bunch of really awesome mutate cards in Ikoria, they should have did it in a block set, which I miss, by the way. I miss block sets. Because more mutate, please.
It's funny that you say mutate, because the mutate mechanic was literally the reason why Paul and I started the podcast, was because we were getting so many messages in our group chat for BAM that we were just like, I think I rang you, Paul, and was like, we have to talk about mutate and companion and all this other stuff that's going to be, coming in Commander, so that even if just our friends listen to it, like, they'll then know what we think, kind of stuff. And that's how Commander at Arms was born. So it was like, we have microphones, we have recording software, we just got off doing the D&D podcast. Why don't we just sit in the closet together, like in separate places because of COVID, and record over the internet?
I like mutate as well. At first, it really bothered me. I thought it was kind of a complicated mechanic, especially for a standard set. But it really grew on me after seeing other people play with it, after playing with a few of the cards myself. And what really bothers me most about mutate is the fact that it'll probably always be underrepresented for a couple reasons. One, it probably didn't do that well, and because they saw that it didn't do that well, they're probably going to be hesitant to return to mutate. And two, if they ever did return to mutate, because it's such a niche mechanic tied to such a weird realm, how are they ever, outside of supplementary sets, going to revisit mutate?
It just boggles. Like, I love the mechanic, and I talked about because back in the day being like only just a couple of years ago, honestly, we had the whole like Ravnica set block again, and then after War of the Spark, they're like, all right, cool, no more set blocks. We're just gonna just put a bunch of one-offs. I was like, what? Why? And I feel like we could have had so much more cool stuff if they just did a whole block of Ikoria.
Yeah, and I guess technically we're getting some kind of block this year because of the whole Innistrad thing. I don't really know how that's working, but it really bothers me that when we had set or blocks, we used them, which is a weird way to phrase it, but we used those blocks on planes we had already visited so many times. Like, how many times did we go to Ravnica?
3.
It's a cool plane and all, but like, do something else, man.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest gripe with Ravnica, Innistrad, and Zendikar is they're always trying to go back, and it's like they're trying to revisit the heydays of like original Zendikar block and original Ravnica block every single time we go back there, and they're just not quite hitting the mark. Like, every time we go back to Zendikar, we always get the fetch lands. Whenever we go back to Ravnica, we always get the shock lands. So it's like just like I like the smaller like Strixhaven, Ikoria, and just those other planes, like the brand new planes that we've never been to before, because they can do really cool things mechanically. Like, yeah, okay, Mutate, we're probably never going to go back there unless we go back to Ikoria for some specific reason if they wanted to do it again. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's always just going to be underrepresented in Commander, because, like you said, we only have one really good commander in Nethroy, and that thing is just an Abzan, recursion powerhouse. Like, yeah, it is one powerful deck.
It's a very powerful deck. There's someone on our server, on the Commander Cost server, Pineapple. He runs a Nethroid deck, and it is spicy, bro. It is so spicy. I love that deck.
All right, so we're going to move to our end step now. We're going to do our normal end of the show wrap up stuff. We're going to clean up and then get out of here for the week. So, where can we find you guys?
We are on Twitch, Twitter, and we have our own website. It's commandthecause.org. Twitch, we are Command the Cause MTG. And then on Twitter, we are also Command the Cause MTG. And I think we can shoot all those over to you to include in the podcast there.
Yeah, we'll have all those in the show notes below or the description of the video. Chris, where can we find you on the internet?
So like I said before, I run the Twitch for I run the Sunday Twitch for the Commander Cause, but then I also have my own stuff that I do. So you can find me on Twitch, Elbleezy. It's ELBLEEZY. And you can find me on there, twitch.tv/Elbleezy. I have an Instagram, which is Elbleezy01, and then because people keep taking my name, and then you can find me on Twitter at Elbleezy3. So on Twitch or Instagram, you'll see the models and stuff that I've done, and on Twitter, you'll see my posts of when I go live and such. So
awesome. Yes, everyone just go check them out. Go and like their Instagram, like their Twitter. Go and follow them on Twitch. Do whatever you can to show them some love. I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. We've had a lot of fun sitting down and having a good old chat with you guys, getting to know you, and getting to promote your cause on the show here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We are thrilled to have been here. Really love your podcast after Chris introduced me to it a few weeks ago, and this was definitely a highlight to get to sit here and just chat with you guys. We'll have to do it again. We'll have you on our stream next time.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put a link out to that when it happens. And with that, you guys know what we're going to do now. We're going to plug some stuff of ours. So if you guys want to get at us, talk to us, interact with us in any way, you can do that through Twitter and Instagram at CMDR@arms. We also have the YouTube channel where if you're not watching this, go and check it out. We do deck techs, unboxings, and gameplay videos will be coming up very, very shortly. I know I say this every single week, and I guess what can I say? It's definitely in the works. You can find that on YouTube at commanderatarms. If you want to support us while supporting local game stores and still buying online, you can do that through our TCG affiliate link, which is tcgplayer.com/commanderatarms. If you want to get a merch shirt and rep the Commander at Arms logo across your chest, we have our super soft Bella Canvas shirts on sale. The link will be in the show notes below or the description of the YouTube video. And then I want to just shout out all of our patrons. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to keep the lights on here in the studio, and it shows that you guys love what we do, and any help lets us produce more content for you and help to reach out to other content creators like Chris and Jake from Command the Cause. And that's it from me. Paul, do you have any final parting words?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Even if this is the first and last episode you ever have or ever will listen to, it really means a lot to myself and James that you took the time to do so. And I especially appreciate you giving some time to listen to our guests. It means a lot to us that they came on as well. So thank you again, Jake and Chris. With that being said, if you enjoy what you're listening to, please make sure that you share our name around with your friends, with your playgroup, with your LGS. Just get our name out there as much as possible. Even just a single extra listen per week helps us out a lot. Any exposure at all. So thank you very much for doing that if you have been. And if you're going to start doing it, thanks in advance for doing so.
And with that, I'm James.
And I'm Paul.
And you've been listening to the newest episode of the Commander at Arms podcast. Peace.
See ya.